We're back. Episode 109. We're here for some prelims first. Can't skip the prelims. You know us. We go deep. Deep dive every fight. Beefy Boys breakdown. Sometimes the bantamweight breakdown. I'm not making it up. I'm not saying we are or we're not. We love all the weights, but bantamweights are always there to be featured.
Yeah, man, we love bantamweights, both men and women. Mostly men, let's be real. But but yeah, man, episode 109. I'm excited. We're going over UFC Fight Night, Rodriguez versus Lemos. And we were just talking about it before we went live, that just, underrated card. I'll even throw myself in there. I was underrating this card. When you look a little deeper though, there was some fun matchups, and some fun names. Even not hindsight being 2020. It wasn't long ago Miranda Maverick was thought of to be, big next up. Polyana Viana's exciting.
And Viana gets the easy sell story of her beating up her attacker in Brazil on the street. That is her, so.
Oh, totally. And then you got, the Ultimate Fighter contestant, Ludwig Sholinian on there on the prelims, Mona Pasquale. Good. And then the main card, really fun matchups. Perfect, fight night matchups. Fights that won't sell pay-per-views, but will be A, fun to watch, and are B, important to their division, and kind of clear up the murk, as we like to say.
I fully agree with that, man. The clarity of divisions was pretty much on point. Not for necessarily the top 15 last night, maybe in one case, of course, but in general, it was more like who's going to rise to that precipice, right, to be on the next pay-per-view in the prelims there to fight.
Because, back in the day, these divisions were barely 15 fighters deep. Now there's such a log jam. Some of these divisions, 40, 50 fighters, it seems like, and, to narrow those down to the top 15 there definitely becomes a funnel, a log jam there.
Bantamweight is impossible to narrow down to 15, but you have to do it.
Exactly. It's that's why, when we say, division clarity, yeah, maybe not top 5, maybe not top 10, but, that back in, 20 to 15, we're to the point now these divisions are so deep that even that needs, clarity.
A top 25 might almost be better. Not necessarily because, I hate it when guys play for rankings only, right? Refuse to fight down, things like that, which we'll get to because there is a great call-out. I thought there was one, just, maybe two, you could argue, the fantastic calls. They both come from the main card, I do believe.
There was some good call-outs for sure.
Good calls. The performances overall last night were really good or really bad, if that makes sense.
Yeah, honestly, there was a few snoozy rounds. I feel like even the fights that had snoozy rounds ended up getting a little action and kind of picking up a little bit. But, man, let's dive right in here. We got making her debut, Tamiris Vidal, 24-year-old fighter, I think coming out of Brazil. Mm-hmm. Dean Thomas was joking around that you ain't fooling me, Sajara Eubanks. Looks shockingly like
shockingly like her.
It was hilarious. Minus 120 favorite. Coming in against Ramona Pasquale, plus 100. I'm not going to say I had insider information, but I do follow Ramona Pasquale on Instagram. She doesn't have a ton of followers, and I could tell it was a rough weight cut for her. She's a big 45er. I'm not going to get too lost in the weeds. Anybody that watched the show before on episodes that feature a featherweight fight know how we feel about the women's featherweight division, and it's not that we don't like it. It's that,
they don't like it themselves. The fighters refuse to like
the
it.
Division. Yeah,
even the fighters though.
Yeah, but I feel like that's a chicken or the egg.
Yeah.
I think if the promotion kind of handled the division better, made more fights, put more spotlight, built the division, blah 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 blah, then the fighters would step up to the plate. I think the fighters kind of view it as career suicide to declare themselves a women's featherweight because of the lack of opportunity and the lack of matchups. And so all these 45ers try to suck down to 35, and they almost always miss weight.
Right.
And it's not that I give them a pass, but
the UFC won't let them fight pretty much or won't promote them at their real weight, so it's they have to take that risk to go down and potentially miss. Yeah.
To go to work, yeah, no doubt. And so, as I said, it's not necessarily giving her a pass. As you can see, Pasquale missed weight, weighed in at 137. Not horrible, but the 136 allowance, really 1 pound off.
Yeah, that was one thing I did keep in mind was man, a pound is not going to make the biggest difference in a fight. Now, where it will make the difference is how she feels, right? Maybe cutting that last pound of water was literally impossible for her. So, if you're sucked dry, you're
Well,
not
her
gonna feel
last
good.
fight, she fought at 45, and she was the bigger girl in there. So I mean,
Dude, her legs are thick. Like she has a lot of lower body weight, which a lot of these girls, that's what limits them. Like Kayla Harrison, just thick. You know what I mean? Like not gonna be able to go down because her whole body's that thick.
it really is a body structure, wider hips, wider shoulders.
Literally,
you know?
yeah,
I mean,
just bigger humans.
It's a physiological thing. I mean, it's ridiculous that, like I said, it's not even like we're arguing for a new weight class to be made. It exists. Just use it.
It has a belt too. It has a champion.
It perplexes me. I said we weren't going to get too lost in the weeds. It got a little bit off there, but I mean, I can't stop beating that drum, bro. I mean, it's dumb.
Well,
the division exists. Just book fights in it.
Well, and as a UFC podcast, kind of our job to make sure we call out the promotion that we're covering so closely and giving so much pub to, when they're not being good, when they're making mistakes. You know what I mean? It's like, it blows my mind because it's just lost money, right? That's all it is.
It hurts the product. Like, as a fan, give me more featherweight fights. Like, that'd be sick. I like the notion that it wouldn't be supported. I mean, that's just antiquated and, quite frankly, just false.
And if you're going to sit there and make the argument that you don't want to see, or you think they're non-athletic because they're bigger, well, then don't watch heavyweight. But that's apparently the baddest man on the planet, so.
Yeah, it's dumb. I mean, just big. If anything, they're more athletic, right?
That's what I mean, because they're bigger and still doing the same things. But you're right, man.
Act like 145 is just like some obese slob.
Yeah, it's like most women that you see on the street are probably 145 if they're above 5'5".
Yeah, no, it's a very reasonable size here. But yeah, you're right. Off in the weeds we go. Round one, man. I mean, this fight only lasts one round.
Gonna be a lot of that tonight. Tonight.
A lot of early finishes and a lot of weight misses. So
marred by weight misses, but with all the finishes, I'm like kind of not so focused on it. It worked out good for the UFC to get all those finishes because if these have been snoozy decisions, I'd be a lot more pissed about all the weight misses.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, especially man, this was a good college football Saturday to try to get away from too. I was struggling, but yeah, man. So I mean, this fight last round one, and I mean, it was pretty much all Vidal. Pasquale landed a few shots, and at the start of the fight looked kind of decent, but Vidal's body kicks were extremely effective. You could tell the body language Pasquale was not liking those body shots, and then I mean.
They were hurting her, man. Like, she was, backing up from them.
Yeah, exactly. And, not to gloss over, or anything or oversimplify, but essentially Vidal saw that was working and was like, oh, I'm going to turn this up to 11, and ends up going with the flying, switch knee to the body.
Yeah, the bicycle knee.
It was sick. And, usually when a knee lands to the body, it was aimed for the head and missed, or the fighter moved, or the range was off, or, but I honestly think she was going for the body because she'd have been attacking the body the whole fight. There's no evidence to point that she,
Oh, 100%, man. I mean, you could see it. She pretty much jumped and, led the right knee at the face so that Pasquale dipped and raised her hands, which opened her body, and then she brought that underside left knee up. And, I mean, it was right on the liver. Right above it, maybe. But when you're talking about the force of a knee and how much area it covers when it lands, it's not like a punch, you know what I mean? That knee is so much bigger, so much more force that it's going to rock your liver.
The shock waves kind of expand out from it for sure. Big shot to the liver, to the body, and Pasquale goes down. And I mean, honestly, I thought the ref was pretty merciful here. I'm not going early stoppage, but Pasquale, I mean, she might as well verbally tapped. She was done. I mean, listen, it's not an early stoppage. The fight was over. A lot of refs would have, let a few little
let her get beat up.
Yeah. I don't know. There are fights on this card where I do find them to be early stoppages. I think that was kind of a theme of this overall card as well last night. I don't put this into the. I mean, we've seen Giga drop people with liver shots. What was that? I think Yair maybe. I mean, we've seen people.
Oh yeah.
A liver shot just. I mean, you might as well be dropped like a hard punch to the head. So I don't consider this one early, but maybe a sign of things to come. Fight ends at 3 minutes and 6 seconds into the first round.
No doubt, and I would like to note as well that for Vidal, UFC debut, flew over with Lemos and one other fighter from Brazil. Oh, Viana. They all flew on the same plane. Well, that plane got delayed, so they didn't get in until Thursday.
Wow, didn't know that. That's interesting. I mean, that sucks for them. Yeah, I imagine international travel is probably still pretty.
You're also going to see a really cool trend by the time we get to that last fight, and I'll say it then so I don't give it away, but all three of these girls have something very in common aside from that plane flight.
Okay, that's interesting. And then yeah, man, like I said, not making excuses for Pasquale. I actually think she's a pretty good fighter, and I think she's one of the like more viable options to make 45 and build the division and be one of those girls.
The last time we fought, we were calling for her to be one of the 45 like main girls, like the girl that doesn't come
Exactly.
down.
And I think that that like opportunity should exist for her. And I know for a fact that she didn't want to probably take this fight at 35. She probably felt like she had to. She's not good at making that weight cut. She shouldn't have to make that weight cut. It's not like she's like trying to be a weight bully. Like I think she's kind of like painted into a corner here.
I totally agree, man, because she's not going to get paid, or if she might even drop from the promotion, or make money even. You know what I mean? On like a basic survival level. Like,
it's
you
not like
gotta
she
eat.
has some fat contract where she
Right.
can fight once a year. I mean, I'm sure she's trying to make it.
And no offense to her, but she hasn't been winning the most.
Yeah,
Winning is a
no,
big
no,
part of extra money in the UFC.
it's tough, man. It's tough. So I know it sounds like I'm making excuses for Pasquale and not giving Vidal credit. Vidal looked dangerous. I mean, Vidal at 24 years old. I mean, young lioness. You know what I mean? Bantamweight does need some juice, does need some life. Kind of an aging division. Kind of factors there. We didn't get to see too much because it was kind of one-sided, and she was fighting a girl with a bad weight cut. However, I mean, we did see the explosive, the athletic, the good kicks to the body, showed some fight IQ and attacking, like going to what was working, you know, and ramping it up. And
I like Vidal. I mean, 7-1 now, too. Also looks just like Eubanks, like we talked about. But, I mean, I don't know, man. No, Bantamweight doesn't necessarily need the most girls, but it is one of those that needs the younger girls. Because it is starting to get top-heavy with old people.
100%. And I do need the new contenders. And even Juliana Pena, who I thought was pretty dope, she was on the desk for this card. But she was even saying the exact same thing as the number one contender in the division. That yeah, we need some new blood, some young blood. So yeah, no, interesting to keep the eye on Tamires Vidal. And with that being said, we can keep it pushing. Go ahead and introduce this next fight.
Awesome. And I did miss the odds on this, so you'll have to help me out. I believe it was Jake Hadley minus 220. Is that right?
Got up to minus 260, and then Carlos Candelario coming in at plus 220.
That's what it was. I reversed it. Okay. Plus 220, minus 260. Right. That makes sense. I had it backwards. Okay, so, right. And so Candelario, right, flyweights. Jake Hadley, the minus 260 favorite here. Honestly, I kind of like the plus money on Candelario. I like him as a fighter. He has really good striking, and this might have been one of the more entertaining fights of the night, in all honesty, as well. Doesn't even it goes 9 seconds past the halfway point. Might have been the most action-packed fight of the whole night, low-key.
It was a fun one. It was a fun one, and I don't believe it got a bonus, unfortunately. Which, yeah, you might look
so Vidal did get a bonus. We did not mention that, but this one does not.
Yeah, which is interesting. I thought this was a better fight.
There was no fight of the night last night either, which this could have arguably been there for that.
Except for the weight miss. You know, they don't do fight of the nights when one guy misses weight. Carlos Candelario comes in at 128.5, which for a flyweight's a pretty big weight miss.
2.5 pounds. I mean, you're talking almost like 1.5% of the weight total. It's pretty big.
Yeah, I don't like that at flyweight. When guys weigh in at 126.5, 127, I can kind of gloss over it, kind of give them another shot. 128.5 means you're not that close. Like, you're pretty much a bantamweight.
Well, in a title fight, he'd have 3.5 pounds to cut, and if you can't, like, if you're that far off at flyweight, we wouldn't even talk about you fighting for a belt.
That's what I'm saying. It's not that close at flyweight. No, that being said, round one, a ton of fun. I use a word that I don't use a ton in my breakdowns, but I use the word action. And I use the word close as well. But I mean, because it wasn't necessarily like overly violent brawl war like I would usually use.
Dude, great straight punches from both guys.
Both guys, great technique, great volume, great each guy having success. Like, that's why I like the word action more than like war. War kind of has a connotation of kind of sloppy brawl. Like, first off, these are flyweights, so just everything was super tight, super crisp. Each guy was having success. Each guy managing range. Like, each guy, landing shots. Now, I ended up coming down kind of on the side of Hadley. I did think the pressure was a big thing, on at least for my eye test. Candelario was moving backwards a lot. Also, those punches to the body were a fucking kiss.
Dude. Hadley's combos are sick, and he mixes them up so well. Like, he would throw one 4-piece that was like finishing with a couple headshots after starting the body. Then he would immediately come back with a combo that attacked the head to finish the body. He would do body kicks to opposite side body punches. It was really impressive from Hadley.
It totally was. Like I said, that's not to say Carlos Candelario didn't land his shots and have plenty of success himself, but I think the overall eye test, it sounds like you're agreeing with me, came down on the side of Hadley in round one.
Yeah, I had a 10-9 Hadley. The activity was pretty big for me. I mean, both guys super active. Nothing to say about that. In the fight, Hadley ends up throwing 170 significant strikes. Candelario throws 148. So,
wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know the numbers, but like that matches the eye test when we tell you guys that it was action packed and it was going back and forth. And mind you, all that came in a round and a half. So
right, that's what I mean. That's like total fight numbers for a lot of fights, or a lot more than a lot of these fights were headed for if they did end early or did get the decision.
Oh, totally, 100%, man. And then round two, more action. It's crazy. A lot of fighters don't have a lot of success from the bottom, but did Candelario get a takedown? I forget how they ended up.
Yes, so Candelario gets the takedown, which I thought was going to be good for him because I didn't like him on the feet necessarily. I thought he was just barely getting outpaced. If Hadley was scoring hundreds, Candelario was scoring 92s. Like, it wasn't like he was getting just dogged or outperformed. He just was missing it slightly. So I thought, maybe he goes to the ground, maybe on top position, he's going to make it happen. And then Jake Hadley just immediately throws up the triangle choke.
And it was sick, too. It was a throwback, something we haven't seen in a while, of the triangle locked in and then dropping, like, essentially 12-6 bows, are never called, which I'm glad they're not. But, like, dropping the elbows, like, downwards while having him in a triangle was pretty goddamn brutal. Like,
yeah.
I said there was some early stoppages. This one, I don't know. Cause
I thought they let him eat a few extra ones, honestly, because he couldn't defend. He literally was just putting his hands up to eat elbows.
He literally couldn't defend. You're exactly right. Now, I did think that focusing on the elbows probably caused the triangle to take longer to sink in. But regardless, I mean, it was brutal. It was effective, and it was smart, and it was dominant.
Round fight two, ending.
Yeah. 100%. Round two, 2 minutes 39 seconds. That he ends up Candelario taps to the triangle. Probably and a little bit of the elbows too, for being real. I mean, the elbows were the brutal part of that. It was brutal. But yeah, Hadley gets the second round finish, gets the sub, kind of stiffed on the bonus, if you ask me. Like, I'd probably take that finish over Vidal's. I don't know. A lot of people would probably disagree with me on that flying knee finish to the liver. I mean, first round as opposed to second round. There's definitely an argument to be made for Vidal. But
but if you're going to say performance, because it's performance of the night, not KO or finish, right? Like, I know that is what it used to be. It used to be finish and sub and fight of the night. And then one fight card, they didn't have a finish, I do believe. And they were like, well, how do we award these awards? So then they changed it all to performance of the night.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that history.
Yeah, they kind of screwed themselves, right? Because they put themselves in the hole of we will have a finish and a sub on every card. Well, if you don't have one, you don't have one. So how do you award that?
Yeah, sure.
So, I'm back and forth on it. I honestly thought when we were introducing this, I was like, man, maybe he deserved this bonus. Because the performance overall was so clean. Like, I thought Hadley looked really good. And my takeaways is not that I'm down with Candelario even. It's just that I think Hadley's a dangerous 125er.
Yeah, this new wave of 125ers is a lot of fun, man.
DC even mentioned that the guys they have even in AKA, he was like, man, they got to be so good at 125 because the skill level and the speed is off the chart.
Real quick, don't want to spend a ton of time on it. Is it lazy for me to say Hadley Mikhaev is what you do next? Just two young prospects. I mean, I think Mikhaev probably wins. It's probably not the matchup Hadley wants, but I don't know. Fresh in our minds, dominant finish, great performance.
I look at it two ways, right? So for Mikhaev, he's probably looking for a bigger name.
Yeah, for sure.
But for Hadley, and with his performance, it's like maybe Hadley are in the fight. It's hard for me to say. I'm looking at his record right now, all that. Great record. And if he beats Mikhaev, he gets to steal all that star. And, they get to pour it into a kid that clearly has the technique and skill. But I don't know that he can avoid the takedown. If Candelario got the takedown.
Exactly.
Then Mikhaev is probably just going to run through him.
I think I'd like Mikhaev. But I also... I think it'd be a good test for Mikhaev too, but you're right. That doesn't really do Hadley any favors. We can keep it pushing. Like I said, love these young flyweights coming up, reinvigorating that division before we have to see Figueiredo Moreno 8. You know what I'm saying? Or we need some new life, some new blood.
Yeah, no joke, man. So, I mean, we can keep it pushing though to these bantamweights if you want. Not the most competitive fight, and I'm interested to see how you scored it because there was one judge that scored it 29-28, which I don't know that I agreed with.
See, I'll push back a little bit on the fight being competitive because I mean I had rounds 2 and 3 being close. That being said, I did have one guy winning every round. I thought rounds 2 and round 3 were the definition of competitive. I thought
3 was close and competitive. I thought 2 had not maybe a clear winner, but I definitely was like confident in my pick of the winner of that round.
That's probably a good estimation of it. We have Johnny Munoz, minus 255 favorite in the bantamweight division, taking on Ultimate Fighters Ludwig Sholinian, plus 215. I said fight in the bantamweight division, and like, man, this fight was kind of set up to look how it looked. I honestly I'm not always right or claim to be right, but like how I saw this fight going is kind of how this fight took place because Munoz, super technical striker, super fast, precise. Like when you think of bantamweight striker, like think of a guy like Munoz, speed, accuracy, volume, footwork. And then Sholinian, more of a wrestler, absolute dog, great chin, but it's kind of a matchup nightmare for Sholinian, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, no, he is, man. And like the only thing was like, is his wrestling defense going to be good enough to keep him on his feet? It was better than good enough.
Exactly. And then like whenever he was stuffing Sholinian's takedowns and they kind of forced it like stand on the feet and strike, it was one-sided on the feet. And I think that's what you were getting at when you said this fight wasn't that competitive. Like Sholinian was tough enough to make it competitive.
Yes.
And the cardio was there and the heart and the fucking ball sack and all that kind of intangible stuff. But like X's and O's weren't that close. I feel you. Munoz pretty much pieced up Sholinian and stuffed takedowns for 3 rounds. But like Sholinian just wouldn't go away. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Do we need to go round by round on this? Is there anything?
I mean, just round 3. I mean, I think rounds 1 and 2 are more of the same. Just Sholinian adapting his game plan to round 2, but still not being able to best Munoz. I thought Munoz in round 1 looked that was the biggest difference. He looked like, yeah, as far as being ahead in the fight. I thought round 1 was like easily his. I thought he was piecing Sholinian up.
Yeah. Well, because that was the round where Sholinian had like 4% accuracy or something.
Yeah,
maybe he only had 4 strikes. He had good pressure, and he like it's a weird to be able to like get a guy going backwards when you're whiffing, but he was just swinging at air. He looked very slow. He looked very outclassed on the feet. They said was marching forward, good pressure. But you're right. Round 1 is probably the least competitive of the rounds. Round 2, I thought was like most of the round was kind of a stalemate. I thought but it was a stalemate because Munoz was stuffing Sholinian's takedown. So they just ended up in kind of these snoozy positions where Sholinian was in on the legs, but really it wasn't going to happen. It wasn't even that close to being finished. And Munoz was able to kind of just stalemate it and stay on his feet. So round 2, probably the snooziest of the rounds, but the damage, the striking, and then if you factor in the takedown defense for Munoz, I thought it was a win for Munoz, but like Sholinian was just able to make it like snoozy enough and kind of clinchy, flinchy.
He was able to negate any big things. It's almost like a football team that gets the 4 yards of play but never hits the big play, but still wins the game outright.
Yeah. So
just that slow march.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean that's probably the closest Sholinian got to like having success, if we're being honest. And it wasn't really much success.
I thought round 3 Munoz just fought way more defensively and wasn't taking as many risks, so he wasn't scoring as much damage. So that's why I think round 3 kind of can debate it and maybe say Sholinian won. But I still scored
round 3 is whenever Munoz got his 2 takedowns as well. So that's kind of, I don't know.
That's pretty much like where it's somewhere I'm like, all right, like maybe Sholinian barely edged out the damage, but Munoz did get the control time that round, did get 2 takedowns on the wrestler, and still got a good amount of damage off himself.
When Munoz had that very strong end of the round with that flurry at the very end of the round, that was like easily the most impactful moment of the round. I thought up until that flurry, you're right, it was kind of coin tossage, pretty each guy. But I thought how Munoz ended the round with that ground and pound flurry was pretty impactful and pretty important, and kind of made my scorecard pretty easy.
Yeah, I ended 30-27 Munoz. I guess the best way to describe round three is that if that flurry is an opposite, right? If it's him getting flurried by
He
Shalinian.
probably steals the round.
Right. Exactly
No,
right.
great point. Great point to bring up. I like that. Yeah, no, I agree with that statement for sure.
But, I mean, I thought Munoz looked really good. Good on the mic afterward. He's the one with the lisp, correct?
I think so, yeah.
That hard lisp, that was awesome. Or, yeah, that's him, because Mario Batista, yeah, that's him for sure. First decision of the night, still a fun fight. Bantamweights, as far as bantamweights go, I don't know who I want to see Munoz fight next. He's definitely above like a Tony Gravely or anything like that.
There's so many.
There's so many. Yeah.
Like there's so many bantamweights.
Maybe like Mono Martinez.
Yeah, you could do that. I mean, like I said, there's so many. You kind of can't go wrong. That's why it's our favorite division. Like, I'm not trying to give like lazy analysis here, but like, especially that like 25 to 16 range, you can match any of those guys up, and it'll be badass. It'll be important. It'll clarify things.
And typically be a good fight.
It would, exactly. It'll be entertaining. It'll be like the type of fight that whoever wins it, that'll be the experience they need to match up with some of the topper, bigger names. So, yeah, I don't know. Mono Martinez works for me, or any of those other kind of.
I mean, I don't know if this is too much too fast, but if Jared Gordon gets starched by Patty, maybe you do Jared Gordon and.
Well, that's lightweight, right?
Oh yeah, what am I thinking?
Yeah, no, yeah, I mean, there's so many bantamweights. I could go back a couple of cards, and I mean, I'm sure that we could find somebody to match him up with. But yeah, I mean, like I said, they'll handle that on the second floor of the UFC Apex. I mean, you did I'm trying to look back here a little bit. Nobody's jumping off the screen. I mean, there's guys like Orochi laying out there. I mean,
Victor Henry, Brandon Davis.
Yeah, Victor Henry. Let me see. What else we got? A ton of bantamweights on these cards, man. I mean, there's guys like, I mean, Yusuf Zalal's out there. I mean, there's definitely fights. There's definitely fights out there for
Zalal's a really fun one, actually. I like that.
So, I mean, that goes to my point. Like, none of these names, I mean, they're kind of interchangeable, and I don't mean that like
Christian Rodriguez from last week, maybe.
Yeah, you could do that.
There's just so many options, man, and that's what we're alluding to. Is like it's pretty much impossible to say who you match them up with because you have like the run of 10 picks.
Yeah, you can't go wrong. We just need to get these guys fighting. All these guys need experience. All these guys need to fight their way to the top. It'll also get clarified a little bit. Like, I think the ranking spot, like Frankie Edgar's next fight is his last, so that ranking spot will become available. Things like that. So yeah, looking forward to seeing who's matched up next for him. But I mean, we can keep it pushing because in this next fight, I think there's like definitely conversations to be had for this next fight as far as like what's next, and definitely I think. Strawweight division not as deep as men's bantamweight, so I think we can actually kind of give some better answers for what's next for this next one.
All right, yeah, I'm down. Go ahead and introduce it.
Yeah, we got Polyana Viana, minus 145. Not fan of sticking fingers in butts, apparently. Fighting Jinyu Frey, who's 37 years old, coming in at plus 125 dog. For the age alone, I really like Viana from a betting perspective. I didn't make it down to the book this week. My mom was in town and stuff, but I did like the Viana bet because I thought that was pretty good value. Fighting that women's strawweight, and man, this fight, I mean, it doesn't last long. There's not a whole lot to break down. This was an ass whooping.
Yeah, it was weird too because they had like one exchange on the feet before the second exchange that pretty much ends the whole fight. And there were some leg kicks that Fry was throwing to start the fight. And that's pretty much the whole analysis up to the second flurry of punches that Viana throws, the second combo. She pretty much tags her with all four of them and puts her out on her feet and then puts her out on the ground. And the ref definitely right. It wasn't an early stoppage in my opinion because Fry immediately wakes up, but that was like a flash KO. Like she was absolutely out.
Oh yeah, this was definitely not an early stoppage. I totally agree that Frey did go out 100%. It was beautiful. I mean, honestly, this little highlight did good on social media. All the ESPNs and all the. I mean, it was making the rounds. Like people, and I mean, let's face it. I mean, she's very marketable to say the least. So it's like
Right.
that. I mean, it helps, man, and it's a real thing, and it looks good on camera, and it makes for a fun storyline. She has, like you said, there's the famous video clip of her stopping the mugging in Brazil or whatever. Seems to be an entertaining, girl. And now she's releasing the Colby Covington fingers in the butt story. I mean, just getting all the clout. I mean, it's one of those things because when you look at her Tapology, there's a lot of red on there. But I mean, she's 3-1 in her last 4. But before that was a 3L losing streak. So it's tough. The thing is, well, the real winner here is future Viana underbetters because that's 12 of her 13 wins were first round finishes. So pretty much if she wins, it's a first round finish. And also, even if she loses, like a lot of her losses are first round finishes as well. So I mean, she is an underbet already. That being said, we're not super geniuses. Vegas is going to know that too. You're probably not going to get a great number on it, but as far as maybe a parlay builder or just eat it because it's going to happen, Pollyanna Viana underbetters are the real winners here.
So under 2.5 is what was offered at Caesars for this fight at plus 185.
I mean, shout out to those people that got down to the book and got that ticket in because I mean that was easy money, right?
That was free.
Free money, yeah, for sure, man. On the flip side, I guess the reason why the value is there, I think Frey goes through a lot of decisions, so it's like there's that side of the coin too, I guess, to consider. But yeah, Viana under seemed to be pretty lockable. I mean, 12 out of 13 wins. So pretty much if you look at the card and you think she's going to win, just go ahead and do it by KO or do the under 2 or parlay it or just have some fun with that because if Viana wins, it's in the first round.
Damn, what a crazy deep dive. Nice betting tip. Well played.
Oh, totally, man. And I'm kicking myself in the ass. But
what a stat. I mean, what a stat.
Yeah, I mean,
and if you parlay that with the younger fighter by plus like 7 years is like 71% win rate. I mean, she had all the analytical data to win this fight.
No, 100%, man. And I mean, that's what's tough because like her record isn't like so good that she's undeniable, but she's exciting, she's marketable, she's good on Twitter. She, it's those things help. Like we can have a separate conversation of whether they should or not, but they do. So it's like, do you think that kind of? And I think she got a bonus off that, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, she did.
And so, I mean, you parlay all those things together, and I mean, do you think she's worthy of a Jessica Penne matchup or a Emily Ducote matchup, or I think Angela Hill's book she's fighting very soon, if I'm not mistaken. I think she's fighting Ducote, if I'm not mistaken, like next week, I'm pretty sure.
That's right.
So, I mean, there's Luana Pinheiro at 14. It's not like she's undeniable, but if you're looking for like fun life at strawweight, I mean, she's a viable option.
I think the loser of the Hill Ducote fight should probably fight Viana next, right?
I like that.
I think that's kind of where she's at, is fighting like the loser of the top 15 war.
Oh, just look at how old the back end of strawweight is. I mean, hell, not even the back end. I mean, you got Tisha Torres at 8. You got Jenny Roba at 10. Amanda Ribas, I honestly don't know how old she is. But you got Michelle Watterson Gomez at 11. Angela Hill at 12. I think Ducote's pretty young. Jessica Penne's at 15.
Yandy Hope is old.
Jenny Roba is very old. Yeah, I put her on the list for sure.
Oh yeah, sorry. Hebus is young. Well, mid age. Like low 30s, high 20s, something like that is Hebus.
Yeah, and then Jessica Penne is no spring chick either. So I mean, that division, the back end of it is just ripe for kind of a generation swap like we're seeing in the NFL quarterbacks right now.
Yeah, even Tisha Torres is old at number 8. Yeah, I mean that's a great point. Is the back end of that division is those girls that were all like top 10 2 years ago that are falling out because they're finally getting to that point where like the young talent is rising past their decaying skills.
For sure, man. For sure. So a lot of fun. That fight's a lot of fun. I think she's a lot of fun. It's very marketable. I can see big things in the future. She keeps stacking wins. They said that 3L streak is a long way behind her. I think she's grown a lot since then. 3-1 in her last 4. Love to see her keep building on it. But yeah, she's getting pretty close to that back end of the rankings, man. But hey, this is the bantamweight breakdown, bro. We got Mario Bautista up next, minus 345 favorite, fighting Benito Lopez plus 285. Interesting matchup because it has the biggest kind of X factor in this whole breakdown is the ring rust. Benito Lopez, 10-1 record, very promising prospect, hasn't fought in like 3 years, and I didn't get the reason. I think maybe personal reasons or some injuries, or usually the typical stuff that keeps fighters out. But regardless of the why, he hasn't fought in a very, very long time. I think if he was active, this money line's a lot smaller. Also, Bautista repping Northern Nevada, where I'm calling home right now. He's from Winnemucca, Nevada. It's a couple hours away, but I just wanted to shout that out. Yeah, and he has the Battle Born tattoo on his hand. That's like the Nevada saying. So yeah.
Is it?
Nevada. Yeah, that's because Nevada became a state because the United States needed money during the Civil War. Like the Union needed money during the Civil War, and Nevada had all the silver mines. So they struck a deal that was like, we'll make you a state if you join the Union side, and we can get some of that bread. And, so that's like the whole Battle-Born history. Stone history lesson there for you, Beefy Boys fans. But so just like I said, Bautista repping Northern Nevada, definitely was pulling for him. I mean, that being said, Benito Lopez repping Northern California out of Oroville, just north of the Bay. So, but it is so funny. Like, it looked like if you just put these guys' pictures side by side,
it all makes sense.
Joking, you could tell like which guys from Northern California and which guys from Northern Nevada. Like, you could just you would pick and you'd be right. But I mean, that being said, kind of a little off track here. I mean, but Bautista, man, just looked fantastic, man. And like I said, I mean, Lopez hasn't fought in a very long time. Honestly, looked for a bantamweight, like not that shredded. Like, I don't know how good a shape he was in.
Yeah, I was confused by that, bro. He was like kind of like a not shredded bantamweight, which you really.
How is that even possible?
Right.
Like, how are you a doughy bantamweight? Like, so they said he hasn't been fighting. Who knows if he's been training? I don't know, man. I mean, like I said, some guys just have different builds, but carry the weight differently. But yeah, definitely. And then on the other hand, Bautista was absolutely shredded. Looked like a freak. Not that it always comes down to this. It's not a beauty contest, but I mean, Bautista. I mean, he was. I thought giving him the work on the feet, and then they get to the ground.
Lopez missed weight by 3 pounds too, as well, right? Or 2 pounds.
He sure did.
Another weight miss.
Another weight, 138.5. So when we said he didn't look shredded, I mean, that's probably where it was right there. But yeah, it was another, man. It's cool. Like 2 times on these prelims, we saw like one submission be kind of used to set up another submission, and we used to, I feel like, see that a lot more. I feel like people's like jiu-jitsu's defense has like risen to a level where we don't see it as often.
Right,
but we
saw people are smart enough to avoid that that bad of a position.
Yeah, but we saw it twice between. Well, I guess I'm considering the triangle choke with the elbows. We haven't seen in a minute, but we saw that early in the prelims. And then this one, we get the triangle kind of parlayed into an arm bar from the back. It was like a reverse triangle. He had his back, had his leg around his neck,
and the arm through
the arm. It was a lot. There's a lot going on there. It's pretty high level. I said Benito Lopez just. I don't know. That is tough. I want to nut ride Bautista because he's a Northern Nevada boy. He did absolutely look fantastic. But I mean, minus 345 favorite. Fighting a guy that hasn't fought in 3 years. Fighting a talented guy though. Fighting a guy that missed weight. I don't know, man. It's hard for me to shovel too much coal. But I mean, it looked fantastic. But out of all the bantamweights he could have fought, I don't know really how to interpret the Benito Lopez win. And I'm trying to, not give the Northern Nevada nut ride too much.
I feel it though, right? Like, why did Benito Lopez? I mean, he was 10-1 coming into it, right? And like, did have all that time off, and is young, so it's like we probably should get better. And he was beaten Steve Peterson. He's lost to who is this? Bermudez, Manny Bermudez, who I don't even remember. And then beat Vince Morales in 2019 before he took that big break. And I like Vince Morales.
Bautista, man, his record's impressive more than you think. So he has 2 L's. One of them's the Corey fucking Sandhagen in 2019. So he was definitely a younger guy. He has wins over Miles Johns. He has wins over Jay, and then he's on a 3-fight win streak after this one, with names including Brian Kelleher and Jay Perrin, who I don't consider to be cans. He does have the Trevin Jones loss, which isn't great, but
I remember that. He got flash KO'd in that.
Yeah, and I think he's done more to kind of rectify that. So I mean, you have the flash KO to Jones and then the loss to Sandhagen. Besides that, impressive wins, really. I mean, he's a guy
very active too.
Yeah, pretty active. I mean, I wonder if could you do Johnny Munoz Bautista? I mean, I don't know what that really does for each guy's career, but it would be a banger, and I think it does kind of clear up the murk a little bit, fought on the same card.
Yeah, why not? I mean, one's 11-2, one's 12-2. They're both in your bantamweight division. They're both on win streaks, I guess. Really, both looked good in the wrestling department or grappling department. Both great,
like plus athletes for the division, like
good strikers.
Bautista more on the strong end, Munoz more on the speed end. So you kind of got that kind of classic matchup. I think it'd be a fun fight.
And Bautista comes forward, which is good for the way that Munoz fights. Like, it'll make for a good fight.
Yeah, just like we saw with Sholinian coming forward. You're right, man. I think that'd be a fun. Like I said, does that make a main card? Does that really move the needle? Probably not, but I'd be excited for it. I think it would be a fun fight to watch. And on that note, that fight lasted 4 minutes and 54 seconds. So that proves how bad of a spot Lopez was in. He couldn't hang on for 6 more seconds. And usually I come on the show and I'm like, oh, you can't hang on for 6 more seconds. But like there's no way. No. It was a wrap, which, kind of, if you want to even give a fight IQ feather in the cap to Bautista, because, I mean, he was in that position for a while, but he saw it like, okay, it's nut cutting time. Like, I got to get this guy out of here, and he did.
Yeah.
6 seconds left.
And credit to him because he does get officially credited as a triangle choke with armbar finish. So it's like like he gets both in the same finish.
Which I'm sure is like a short list, right? I don't know the exact list, but yeah, like I said, you don't see that every day. We used to see that kind of stuff more often. For him to pull that out, against modern level competition is really impressive. And man, we can keep it pushing to this featured prelim. We got Shanna Young plus 530 against Miranda Maverick minus 730, and
it looked like that.
It did look like that. This was definitely a get right fight for Maverick. Maverick was a prospect that the UFC was shoveling a lot of steam in, a lot of coal in, giving her the proverbial boost. She was in the rankings not all that long ago, definitely in the Beefy Boys era. She's a very young fighter. So all that being said, I think the UFC wants to see success and see good things for her, and they gave her a matchup against. They actually fought once. This was a rematch.
Yeah.
But they fought on the local scene, and Maverick won that one. Since then, Maverick's been doing a lot of bigger, better things than Young. And round one, I thought was pretty competitive. I mean, the first 4 minutes, they were on the feet, and that's Maverick's thing. She's a great wrestler, or a good wrestler. And gets some subs, but has good jiu-jitsu. But, I mean, the stand-up leaves a lot to be desired, and that was on full display. I mean, her and Shanna Young were tit for tat because the history books will have this as a one-sided ass whooping, which in a lot of ways it was in the later rounds. But round one, I mean, tit for tat, skill for skill, even on the feet. I mean,
not much difference. Maybe Shanna Young might have been more effective on some of her strikes because Maverick was throwing at air a lot of times with too much power that didn't make sense and telegraphing the strike.
100%, that was happening. And so Maverick ends up getting the end of the round takedown with a little bit of control, and then she actually was
good ground.
That's one thing about Maverick. She's been kind of snoozy in the past. She was pretty active from top when she would get into those positions in this one. So in my opinion, that shows growth, right? Probably how she was losing some of these rounds in the past,
losing rounds.
Losing them rounds. But so I mean, really, like I said, up until that takedown, it was either girl's fight. You maybe even just shaded towards Young. So I mean, fight IQ for Maverick to get that late takedown, and then once the gap was for as close as it was on the feet, the gap was very wide on the mat.
Yeah, it was. Honestly, it was wild, and also standing takedown defense was terrible for Shanna Young. There was one time where they were in just a over-under clinch, and they were just short of the fence. Maverick just literally stepped out to the side and tripped her and threw over her leg. That's a super simple style of over-under throw. That I
Tis
can't
the
believe
season
the
for
UFC
savings
fighter
at
would
Diamonds
let
Direct.
someone hit him,
Join
you know
us
what I mean?
November
Like,
11th through
that's what blows
13th
my
for
mind.
20% off designer
Yeah,
engagement
man,
rings,
no,
wedding
great points,
bands,
great
diamond
points. And rounds
fashion,
2 and 3 were,
gemstone
like,
jewelry, and
identical.
more.
Like, to
With
the point
Diamond
where my
Direct's
notes are
unmatched
actually, like,
selection,
copied and
the
pasted
perfect gift for
verbatim.
yourself or the one you
Each
love
round,
is within reach.
Maverick got 2
Plus, you can
takedowns.
keep your gift
With
merry
each of
and
those
bright for
takedowns, she
years
was
to
able
come
to
with our
advance
lifetime
position
warranty
and be
included
very
with
active
each
with the ground and
purchase.
pound from top.
Make your appointment
I mean,
for this
it
must-see
was like
event.
they were not
Find out
being
more
as
information
takedowns
and
threw
shop
132
online at
ground strikes.
diamondsdirect.com.
Yeah, super active on top. And she would advance to half guard,
Graham
got into
Doty,
full mount a
Paige
couple
Wetzel,
times, I
we got
believe. I
Jackie
mean,
Barrett, the junior with us coming
dominant
off
on
a
the ground.
double-double.
And like I said, showed the
against
fight IQ to
Texas
get the
A&M.
fight to
You
where
snap
she's
a
going to win
three-game
it. But I
losing
still
streak.
don't.
What worked so well?
That being said, we've said
Pick up
that
this
like this exact same
I felt like
breakdown
our
before.
scouting
Like when
report
Miranda
worked really
Maverick
well tonight.
wins,
We
it looks like
executed
this.
it
She'll
every
lose some exchanges
area
on the
of the
feet,
scouting report as
get it
well.
to
It
the
was just
ground,
really
and
fun
have
to be out
success
there.
on the ground. I still
So
don't
what do you
think she's
think your
necessarily like filled
main
those holes
key,
or
if you could
answered
have
those
only done
questions.
one
Like
thing
Shannon Young was
right
giving it
on
all
the
she
scouting
wanted
report,
on the
what would
feet.
that have been?
And in the women's
Our main
flyweight
focus on this
division, I mean,
team
there's a
is
lot better
defense, and I feel
strikers
like tonight
on the
our
feet than
team played
Shannon
real well
Young.
on
And
defense,
so that's always
blocking
going
and
to
just digging,
be
and we can keep
an
doing that.
issue.
It's
You know what I
a tight
mean?
turnaround. You get to
and let
play
me look
Texas
up real
A&M
quick.
again tomorrow. Biggest thing
Yeah,
we're looking forward to
man,
tomorrow.
my
is
takeaway was
what?
very much that Maverick's going
Just
to
being out there with the girls
have to
again,
improve her
hopefully
striking
coming
a
out with
lot
another
because
win,
she will not be in
and
the
just
top
competing
15
like
with
we
that
always
level of
do.
striking.
That is
Good
Jackie
grappling,
Barrett, seven
good,
double-double
way better
of
ground
the
and pound. She's
season
made
for the
improvements in
Auburn
places,
setter.
which does show
Auburn
growth,
is
but
victorious in
man,
4
she's got to start
sets
getting
over
better
Texas A&M.
at her worst thing and quit improving things she's already been okay at.
No, so let me ask you, did you have any 10-8 rounds? I did not. Like, I wasn't even close to handing a 10-8. All 3 judges gave out a 10-8. I'm assuming it was in the 3rd round.
Yeah, they only give the third a 10-8. I gave it a 10-9.
I recommend Nature Made
it was
vitamins
30-26.
because I trust their
Like,
quality.
Because I
They
didn't
were
see
the
much
first to be
difference
verified
around
by
2 and 3.
USP, an independent organization that sets strict quality and purity standards. Nature Made, the #1 pharmacist-recommended vitamin and supplement brand.
But I don't know, dude.
Sharon
I guess she
Lokedi in
threatened
her
the submission,
5-0
right? She
debut,
got
her
officially credited as one
26.2
Sullivan,
debut as the
round.
champion
Yeah,
of the
maybe
TCS
it
New
was
York
back
City
to the
Marathon.
summer.
Oh, I cry every
Like,
time. This is amazing.
Bro, I feel like I'm super liberal with my
All
10-8.
those
I hand out
months,
10-8
all the
like fucking
miles of
Oprah,
training
and
they are
the
going to
thoughts
pay off
didn't
with
even, like,
victory.
enter
Boston,
my mind.
now
Like,
New
I didn't
York,
even, like,
Evans
know that was, like,
Chapet,
on the table to discuss.
2022.
I wasn't even gonna bring it
TCS,
to you guys.
New York
But
City
all 3
Marathon
judges were like,
champion.
oh yeah, clearly
The
the most
double
obvious
here in the
10-8 I've ever
States.
seen.
Well,
Like,
and
okay.
I think what's more to the my like weird or my brain thinking about it, what's like stands out the most is that if round 3 is a 10-8, is round 2 not a 10-8?
Tis the season for savings at Diamonds Direct. Join us November 11th through 13th for 20% off designer engagement rings, wedding bands, diamond fashion, gemstone jewelry, and more. With Diamonds Direct's unmatched selection, the perfect gift for yourself or the one you love is within reach. Plus, you can keep your gift merry and bright for years to come with our lifetime warranty included with each purchase. Make your appointment for this must-see event. Find out more information and shop online at diamondsdirect.com.
No, I think Meatball Molly.
People don't really understand
Yeah, she
that
very soon.
our path
Tracy
was
Cortez, right?
divinely
Tracy
ordered.
Cortez?
Here is Boston. Double. Cuts through it. And finishes.
Aaron Blanchard.
That's why you beat it. That's why you give it the ball.
Yeah.
Even more yikes.
Boston.
I think Maverick knows that Meatball's
Trying to figure out if something can work.
Henderson on a 3. Henderson, the young undefeated. Destiny Henderson wants this title.
Destiny Henderson continues to be the engine.
Ducharme, aggressive attack. Gets denied by Boston.
Boston right there to send it.
Well, that ain't gonna happen, bro. She got to fight a real fight.
What a gorgeous finish from Aaliyah Boston. South Carolina in total control. Henderson racing in for 2 more.
Yeah,
It is not unfinished business any longer.
And the order was for us to be national champions on this day.
That'll probably get her back in the rankings. And then if Meatball can beat Maverick, that'll probably keep her in the rankings and kind of get her right, you know. And I think it's a favorable matchup because we said Maverick striking sucks. And Meatball, say what you want about her, she can throw bombs. And those bombs will land against Maverick.
'Tis the season for savings at Diamonds Direct. Join us November 11th through 13th for 20% off designer engagement rings, wedding bands, diamond fashion, gemstone jewelry, and more. With Diamonds Direct's unmatched selection, the perfect gift for yourself or the one you love is within reach. Plus, you can keep your gift merry and bright for years to come with our lifetime warranty included with each purchase. Make your appointment for this must-see event. Find out more information and shop online at diamondsdirect.com.
Do you think it's weird that Patty and her are on different cards? Or do you think they're getting tired of the bullshit?
It bugged me as a fan, and I'm not some prude or like it was just like it got too.
It was like not a good interview after the fight, and like the story is like cool, but like quit throwing it in my face, like.
When just she gets way too hammered. Like we all have that friend that just like gets too hammered and is just like annoying to be around, and like that's meatball. I mean, it's
she literally drank half a bottle of Hallerhead. Shout out Hallerhead.
I need to get me a bottle. It's been too long.
Yeah,
actually, I'm not drinking for 2 months. We'll get to that later.
All right, nice. Shout out Hallerhead still though. If you do drink it, it'll only be Hallerhead. Yeah, promotional. You're right though. For Meatball Molly, I think that's a horrible fight for her against Blanchfield. Now, if she wins that, boom, through the roof.
If she wins that, I'll eat my fucking spoon of shit because I mean that's a real of a win as it gets.
No, yeah, definitely. And then for Maverick, yeah, it is a really good call out. And it is one of those call outs that if Meatball loses like she should, it makes all the sense on earth because then she beats her and pretty much gets to fight for her way to the top 15 if she gets past Meatball Molly at that point.
I love the call out because I mean Maverick's not necessarily known for being great on the mic or super interesting or anything. So the fact that it came from her, I didn't expect it. It makes sense. It's not some like call out like some that she's not going to get. Like it's like an achievable goal. It makes a lot of sense, like rankings wise, like age wise, like clout wise. I don't know. I loved the call out, and that's probably my favorite thing about the fight was the call out, and her ground and pound was sick. It's just it sucks because, like I said, no question. Like the holes weren't filled. Like and so it's like she still is at a deficit on the feet against almost everybody in the top 15. Like seriously. So it's like it's just hard to get too excited.
I fully agree. I'm not that excited about Miranda Maverick, and I honestly like I kind of hate the fact she wears aviators when she walks out. Don't love that.
You know what she looks like to me? She looks like a grown-up version of the girl from the original Jurassic Park.
A storm is coming.
That's a really good call out, actually.
That's all I can see.
That's the sound of returning champion South Carolina, led by coach, genius, extraordinaire, Dawn Staley, and star forward
Aaliyah
Blockstead.
Raptors patrolling around.
They're back and better than ever, looking to beat a 35-2 record in Division I basketball.
I think that officially means it's time to wrap up this prelim portion.
Right on their tails, as always, Coach Vanderveer and the Stanford Cardinal. Hey, I know them. They're scheduled to face off against South Carolina on November 20th. Want to know what Stanford has that South Carolina doesn't? Two superstars in Haley Jones and Cameron Brink. Two of the top players in the country? We'll let you decide. That's the sound of the UConn Husky, with Hall of Fame coach Gino Auriemma at the helm. Although his task is a little tougher than he expected. He's already without superstar Paige Becker, who tore her ACL in the offseason and has now dubbed herself coach.
Don't miss out.
Oh, that sound? That's automatic bucket. Caitlin